Welcome everybody to this webinar about PlexTrac 101. I'm joined by my friend Dan DeCloss here. Hello, Dan.
Hey, Paul. Paul. Hey, Brian.
Okay,
I'm looking at some of the attendees here. I'm like, oh, there's Paul.
No, I know what you were doing. What that was a Freudian slip because you're Mr. Big Shot on. Folks attending here, you may have seen Dan and PlexTrac featured on, big podcasts, big companies like Security Weekly. That's what you were saying, I think, Dan, when you said
that's it. That must have been it.
You're so used to just.
Oh wait, who am I? Who? What famous person am I talking to today?
Oh, nice recovery. Yeah, I'm sorry that you're not chilling with your good pal Paul. It's your little friend Brian over here at 7 Minute Security.
My best friend.
Thank
over
you.
7 Minute Security, Brian Johnson. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for. I've been excited to team up with you guys in this one. And Dan, you and I have been talking for a while now about. I've been tweeting and slacking about PlexTrac, and a lot of questions have come up over the months. People have kind of pinged me on DM or on Slack saying, well, can PlexTrac do this? And what does it cost? And does it have this feature, that feature? And so you and I and your team there got talking about, well, let's just have a PlexTrac 101. We'll just, have you share your screen. We'll talk through the platform. I've got on my other monitor here a bunch of questions that were submitted to me. And so what I thought we'd do is, give you a chance to introduce yourself and fire up your screen share. And we'll just get right to the meat of the matter. We won't won't waste any time. How does that sound?
That sounds great. No, and again, appreciate it. Yeah, no, always love the 7 Minute Security crew. You've got a great following and good folks on your Slack channel, and people, and then obviously you yourself always enjoy being a friend. Thank you for being a friend of PlexTrac and continuing to help promote us. We're in the mission of helping people do security better and more efficiently, so that we can all kind of move the needle forward in terms of our security posture. And I know that's your mission as well with your business. So
you bet. You bet.
So yeah, a little background on me. I've been in cybersecurity for 15 plus years now. I guess going on 16, but worn a lot of hats throughout that time. Started my career in the Department of Defense. I went to the Naval Postgraduate School for a master's degree, and that's where I really cut my teeth in security. It was a focused program in cybersecurity at the time, and so it really started doing a lot within the Department of Defense around vulnerability management, program management, and then got into penetration testing, and kind of started to find my niche within application security penetration testing. Then moved into consulting, right? So you're doing engagements for a lot of different clients. Moved on to enterprise, where I was on an internal team for several different companies, doing the same kind of work, but as an internal red teamer, so to speak. And just started to feel all these pain points, particularly around kind of one, the engagement lifecycle, two, the reporting process. I guess that's probably the most important thing, was the reporting process of having to deal with different templates and Word documents, and not feeling like the report itself was actually exhibiting all of the work and effort that went into the engagement. And then having those back and forth issues with people trying to reproduce these issues and being able to know how to fix them. And then, you come back a year later and do a test on the same application or same network and find a majority of the problems that you'd found the year before. So those were all concerns of mine of how do we improve this overall process so that we're actually making progress from a security perspective, especially even on the blue team, where it's like I may not just have one pen test throughout the year, but I may have 3 or 4, and then I also have all these other sources of risk, vulnerability scanners, GRC based assessments, gap analyses, and I want to be able to consolidate all this information so that I can actually have good metrics on how am I making progress, and has this been reported before, those kinds of things. So that was really the impetus for PlexTrac, was really improving that entire life cycle, starting with the reporting process on the consulting side, right, or the internal team's perspective.
Yeah. The report is a interesting beast, isn't it? Because it's really, at the end of the day, what what they pay for, but yet it's often the analyst or the pen tester's most dreaded thing that they'll put off till the last minute. But yet it really should be that, you know, the cornerstone, the big uh, shiny metal that we give to the, well, of course the metal may not be gold, silver, or bronze, maybe like a brown colored metal, you know, or
some
something.
badges.
Yeah. You get the turd award, but still, yeah, that's that, and that's where I first got kind of cut my teeth with PlexTrac, was on the reporting side, because I, like perhaps many on the attending here today, spend hours and hours of my life in Word templates and rewriting things and going, oh man, I had a really nice write-up for that vulnerability. Where was that? Oh, it was in this report from 2 years ago. Oh, now these links are broken. Okay, copy that over. The font is wrong. The, you know, and you just spend so much time feeling like information security Shakespeare, when you could, you know, still make a great report, but it doesn't mean you have to waste, you know, half of your life doing the actual writing. And that's one of the areas I think PlexTrac really shines.
I would agree and appreciate that. So like, yeah, I'm happy to kind of dive in and
Yeah, let's
you know,
do it.
we can, I think as part of this, you know, we've got the attendees there that feel free to ask questions in the Q&A as we roll
Yes.
along. We'll kind of show off PlexTrac. You know, that's the whole point, is 101 and what you can do with PlexTrac, and definitely want to make this as interactive as possible. So.
Sure.
So
I'll watch
yeah,
that QA box, and I'll shout out and sprinkle in these other questions too that we've got sent to us ahead of time. So yeah,
yeah,
go for it.
absolutely. So, you know, PlexTrac, you know, is designed to be cloud-based or you know, web-based software. This was one of the key features that I wanted to implement with PlexTrac, is getting away from having to work solely in a Word, you know, or a document-based report at the onset, right? Where you have all these notes and you want to collaborate and consolidate them into a Word document. But then, you know, you don't have a way to track these over time, even from just the perspective of, like you just mentioned, Brian, like, oh, I had that really good write-up. What report was that in? And you have to go search through your file system, or maybe your archives, or your backups, or maybe you got rid of it due to data retention policies or whatever. And so now you don't have that information stored. And so with PlexTrac being web-based, you know, it really keeps everything in a single spot so that you can track that over time, right? So year after year, you can go back and see like what different findings were reported from your clients, or you know, if you're an enterprise, you know, from the different teams within your enterprise and even external teams. But it does deploy in 3 different methods. So you can deploy it as an on-premise solution if you wanted to host it yourself, or not expose it to your customers. So if you're on the consulting side or the service provider side, you can use this as a dashboard for your customers, and you can grant them access to only see what they're supposed to see, and so they can log in and see everything that they have been that you've been reporting to them. And then, so, you know, we have the on-premise solution, and then we have the private hosted solution, where we host the server for you, but it's a dedicated instance to you. So your data is isolated in not in a multi-tenant capacity. So you can also then have your own, you know, subdomain for yourself. So that's what we have here, you know, is demo.plextrac.com. This is kind of an example of a private hosted instance. And then we do have our multi-tenant cloud instance that is app.plextrac.com, and you can have a tenancy there and have all the same features as you would, you know, with a private instance or an on-premise instance. So when you kind of first log in here, you know, you get the perspective of all the work that's going on, you know, related to you, whether you're a client or whether you're you know, someone doing the work in terms of the testing, and get an idea of like how many reports are in progress, how many findings are being opened versus closed every month. So this is a demo instance. So you can see that this tenant is probably not doing the best job of closing out issues. They're just getting issues, you know, reported. But we do have some kind of baseline statistics that kind of just give you a little snapshot of, like, you know, what the world looks like for you today. And we break everything down by client. And so, you know, if you wanted to group things by the different customers that you're servicing, if you're an enterprise team, you can break this down by either project or by business unit, things like that. But the client is that kind of that baseline, hierarchy for structure. And if we were to come into, a client, we'd see a report, a series of reports. These can be all different types of assessments, right? And it kind of just gives them a background of like, here are the different reports that have been conducted, their current status, whether they're published or in draft. So the nice thing about PlexTrac is it really is meant to be a collaborative engagement facilitator. So if you are doing an engagement and you want to be collaborating with the stakeholders in real time, you can do that. So the report can be in either published or draft status, and then within the findings, you can specify whether those findings are a draft or not, right? So you'll see here that these findings are have this little dot with a little background information on them, or like kind of a little different color background versus the one that's clear here. So this just indicates that the finding is in a draft status rather than a published status. So if you were doing an engagement and you said like, you know what, I really do need to go ahead and let them know about this finding, I can go ahead and just save this as published. And then when we come back to the findings list, the customer or the end user could log in and they would see this finding at this point, but they wouldn't see all these other ones. So if you're still drafting things up or trying to collect evidence, you want to kind of do that report as you go, which I think in general is kind of the recommended way to do your report for a pen test or any kind of risk assessment, so that you don't, so that information is fresh as you're testing it out. But you want to keep a log of all that information without exposing it to the end user just yet. That's the purpose of that functionality.
And that's cool. That's something that I have not used yet personally, but I can think of instances where I wanted that because I had a client that really wanted to see what I was finding as I was finding it, but then they were kind of being very aggressive. Like they were trying to quickly patch the house and remediate things, right? Like almost to cut off my pen test at the legs. And so it was kind of it was like a little bit of a dance of like, give them information to know that I'm finding things, but don't like tip them off, that the quote unquote bad guy is in the network, and have them, have it not be a real true test. So
Right.
This would be kind of a nice way to, if you wanted to use it for that use case too, having these draft findings is nice, rather than maybe trade 50 emails, right? Like, yeah, I did find this one thing. Oh, is it this? Oh, is it fixed now? You could just kind of let this be your live report, and updates just kind of trickle in. That's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And along those lines, I definitely have been on assessments where, you're doing the test with them, you're kind of sitting there and doing an audit, so to speak. Like I remember one time I was auditing a customer and it was their firewall configurations, and we were walking through the standard configuration guide, and they were missing some, and the guy is like, well, if I change that right now, do you have to report it?
Oh yeah.
I think we've all been there. You're like, yeah, right. I do. Like, I mean, I got to show that I'm doing my job too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you have a policy for this one thing? And it's like, well, if I go to my office and Google a template and print it off and put our name on it, I mean, we have it. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a little different intent there, but
right.
But this can help with that, where you can still show but you can show that, hey, while we were doing this test, they came in and fixed it. So like, let's say you did publish this finding and they came in, they start to make this status tracker, we can assign this to people, and then they can come in and say like, okay, we actually closed this out. Even before the technical engagement was completed, right? So you start to get this kind of this timeline view of how these issues are getting closed out and fixed, right? So this is that kind of like where we kind of, from PlexTrac's perspective, where we kind of come in with the concept of purple teaming, right? So we really want the purple team to be, the collaborative efforts between the red and the blue teams, and red being, from our perspective, anybody that's doing any kind of proactive assessment, so that they can collaborate with the people that are responsible for fixing and remediating these issues. So that's really what we try to facilitate and empower our users, is that you can really be collaborative throughout this whole process, and it doesn't have to kind of get all bombarded at the end. It doesn't have to be that way. but you have a good idea of what's going to happen and what's going to be reported.
And I think that was one of the key features that attracted me to PlexTrac is, and this is something that will, I would imagine, strike a chord with folks listening, is that you do all this work to conduct a test or some sort of assessment or audit. You get the report put together. You have a delivery meeting, right? The reports are printed off, or you're showing them on a screen, and you get through everything, and then it's kind of like, well, what now? And I think we as the assessors and the testers, it makes our bowels get pinched when we just see that report just kind of go into a drawer, right? And for years, what I would do is try to give them like hand off a Excel doc to them with simply all the findings, kind of like you have here, a little bit of a severity, and then like a notes field and maybe an assigned to field. And some of them use that a little bit, but at the end of the day, the remediation efforts just lost steam almost immediately upon the delivery meeting and that discussion of some of the high severity findings, right? Like you can just already feel like the engine of your assessment just kind of spinning down, and you're like, they're not going to do anything with this. But this gets me excited, and this gets a lot of our customers excited, because it's like anybody in management can come in at any time and really see all the findings from the test, and, oh, look at this, we've closed 4 already. Well, isn't that cool? Yay team. And now I'm kind of excited. I'm maybe have a little bit more positive attitude about this whole security stuff that me as the business owner is spending so much money on, right? I got this expensive team. They should be fixing stuff. Well, are they? Well, how can I see it? Well, here it is. It's all right here in PlexTrac.
Yeah, exactly. So this is kind of like what a fully baked report kind of looks like. And why don't we kind of just dive in and kind of start from scratch and just create our own 7MS, 7MS, awesome sauce.
Oh, that sounds like a good one.
Right.
Now do you, as you're starting, okay, you're going to make a new client, but then as you go to do a report, do I have to bring my own report methodology that I've used for years, or do you have a bunch just, ready to go out of the gate?
Yeah. So we have, you're talking like in terms of assessment methodologies?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Yeah. Critical security controls, NIST,
right.
stuff to just help me get started. Or maybe I'm new to the assessment game, and I've never built any of my own stuff, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel if I don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. So PlexTrac does ship with baseline security assessment questionnaires, right? So like we have the pre-built CIS control assessments where you can do like an assessment per control, as well as like the entire kit and caboodle with CIS top 20. We also ship with the CMMC 1.0.2, and so that those come pre-baked. And then, we're continuing to build out like PCI, HIPAA, ISO, those kinds of things. But you can also create your own from here. So we do support those frameworks from their categories, and you can create your own. A lot of our customers, will have their own questionnaires based on these frameworks that will help them that they can either just create, or we can migrate them into this assessment. So like if we were to say like, let's just start. Here's the CIS 20 pen test one. Let's go ahead and just start this one for you. So this is kind of nice, because this can be kind of your questionnaire based versus something where you might be doing like a penetration test, or you can bring it all together. Say it's like one big collective exercise. So we can come in and say like, hey, we've implemented this, and we're cool. We can do lots of other. We can save this and come back to it. You can see that we have this, in progress and completed, to view previous assessments or pick up where we left off. And so the engine is smart enough to say, that, hey, based on their answers, we're going to create a report. So we'll go ahead and submit this report. And based on the answers that we provided, it broke down, whether those are in process or closed. And so now we can come in and we can see, the different findings. They're still in draft status because we have that as our default. So we always report everything in draft until we want it published, but you can change that. And you'll notice that these statuses are based on the answers that we provided. So there's our comment, and here was our answer. You'll also notice that we have like tags. So this is really powerful from the analytics perspective that we'll kind of probably get to in a little bit here. But being able to slice and dice the data is really valuable from the blue team's perspective and even from the red team's perspective. But if I'm a chief security officer or a CISO or a security director, I want to kind of see how are we making progress and what are our trends. And so, and can I split that up based on different security controls or different MITRE attack techniques? I think we've talked about MITRE before, on some of our other webinars, but say I want to be able to kind of have this living risk register and being able to break things down based on the different categories of risks are really valuable, right, and really important. So we definitely encourage heavy use of tags throughout the platform within PlexTrac. Things that you can tag are assets, you can tag findings, you can tag assessments, clients and reports, and assessments bring in their own tags as you create them. So then that really allows you to have that analytical capability be much more powerful. So we've done that assessment. Now we can come in and say like, okay, well, this really should be a high, right? So I can come in and I can always change this, right? And I can add some affected assets. We're not going to have any here. I'll bring some in. We could always create our own on the fly, but then we could add some custom fields if we needed it. So like if we had the response in the category come in, but if we wanted to bring in some screenshots or something like that, we always could, right? So let's come to some screenshots here. Like, I mean, these are not going to be like totally applicable, but kind of show you can select a bunch of screenshots and bring those automatically into the report. You can also add videos, which are very powerful from showing how to reproduce this. So how to reproduce the issue. And so then, you can see when you view the finding, these screenshots are here. If you had a video here, it would display. And so it just continues to enhance. And that's the whole purpose of PlexTrac, is really enhance this reporting process and make it easier, right? Make this quicker, right? So then I think that,
I was just going to say, I think that functionality, at least for me, encourages me to do better note taking and better screenshot taking as I go. Because for years I was in the habit of just, taking max screenshots or whatever, right? And then I'd end up with just a folder full of 742 screenshots. And then later I'd piece things together. But, this PlexTrac allows me to be a little bit more disciplined and just, take a finding. And as I'm discovering things and writing it up, I'm just attaching all the screenshots. And maybe I don't use all of them when it comes to the final product, but I'm not, doing the typical assessor life thing where, you wrap that test, maybe 4 or 5 days go by because you've started another test and you come back to write the original one. And you're just like, what was I even doing? Just like this squirrel on crack taking pictures of everything. And I don't even know what goes to what finding. But this makes it a lot easier, especially that batch upload and batch caption, just kind of in one swoop, just quickly get all the details down and then boom, you're on to the next finding.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes it really nice. And then, there are other ways to get findings into a report, right? So we've kind of showed off the custom finding, form, where, you come into this form and you're editing all this information, right? We also have the concept of a write-ups database. So this is that concept of like, hey, I've written this up before. I know I'm going to write it up again. I want to save this so I don't have to copy and paste that work. So like, if we wanted to say like, hey, I've got a SQL injection vulnerability in here. Let's go ahead and add that. So now I add that straight into the report, and it brings in all that extra information that I already had from before, right? And so now I don't have to copy and paste this information. I can quickly come in and tweak it just to edit, briefly what is unique to this current engagement, but I have the baseline information that I need, and I don't have to go back and re-copy that in or find the previous report that it was in. I can just have it in the write-ups database and just easily bring those in.
And those, just so I'm clear, those write-up findings, PlexTrac comes with a bunch just baked in, and then I can also make my own, or is there like a big library that everybody shares, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it comes with your own set. And these are kind of based on some of the more common scanning tools like Burp and things like that. And then you can always tweak those from there. And then you can also add your own set, right? And so
Okay.
let's also say that I wrote up something that it was a custom finding, but I know I'm going to reuse this, right? I know I'm going to use this again. I can easily just copy this straight to the write-ups database. So you get a little warning like, hey, you are copying something into the write-ups database. So if it has anything client specific, you might want to go, tweak that before you bring it into another report or before you publish
Okay.
it, right?
Okay, gotcha. That's exactly what I was concerned about, and maybe folks would be just knowing as well,
Yep.
like, right, who gets to
Yep.
see all that stuff. Hey, if you don't mind, Dan, we have a
Yeah.
couple questions come in. I just thought I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
hit
Yeah.
some of these.
Absolutely.
One question that came in was says, I'm assuming you can download this into an Excel workbook.
Oh, yeah. So we support, here are the exports that we support. We support Word, so we can use the custom template to your Word document. We'll demo that here in a sec.
Okay.
Markdown and then CSV, right? And then we have our own format of PlexTrac. It's a JSON-based format that if you have multiple people, say you use your own instance of PlexTrac and you have a customer that uses their instance, you can export your report in PlexTrac format. They can import it in and get the same look and feel without having to copy and paste everything out, right? So it really avoids the mundane activity of taking a document-based report and copying that into another platform, right? So we don't
Gotcha.
support straight to Excel; it's to CSV. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then another person asked, when you import something into a write-ups database, does it do any kind of fuzzy search to attempt to identify duplicates?
So duplicates of the title or of the finding itself, or in the report. I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I would think, let's see, when you import something into a write-ups database, so on the import, or maybe
Yeah.
when
So
it's
like.
getting imported into the report.
Yeah, so like I think I'll address that at the report level. So the report level, these are all unique finding IDs based on the title. So if you have the same finding, and like when you import from a scan, so like the third way is to import from scan results. So these are the tools that we support scan imports from today, including our own, right? And so if I'm importing multiple scans, it deduplicates. Like if I already know I have SQL injection from this scanner and I import another scan that has the same finding in it, it just consolidates that into a single finding and maps and consolidates the assets. So if we were to, let's do, I guess I have Nexpose. So change this to Nexpose.
Oh, gotcha. It would show SQL injection as a single vulnerability, but then affects assets XYZ rather than
Yeah, exactly.
seeing
So
it
it just
3 times.
adds to the list. Yeah. So like if I had already had default or guessable SNMP community names in the report, it wouldn't add a second one. It would just add the additional assets that were part of that an extra scan, and then it also brings in the additional scan output from that respective scanner. So I hope that answers the question of like try not to remove duplicates, or having the ability to deduplicate things within the report itself.
Okay. Yeah, Ryan, if there's more questions, then let us know and we'll hit you back in a little bit here.
So like you've seen like how to get findings into a report. We do have this handy readout view, which is very nice from being able to kind of debrief, right? So you don't have to prepare like a separate PowerPoint presentation or a separate PDF to deliver the report or to do the debrief or the readout. You can just come straight here and you can navigate the report in a nice, concise fashion, right? So you can run through the findings. If you're halfway through the end and someone has a question about a finding that you talked about 30 minutes ago, you can come back up here and say, oh yeah, let me just browse straight to that and we can revisit it, right? So this makes it nice and in a way to present the data to your customers or to the stakeholders in your debriefs in an elegant fashion.
And I'm wondering, Dan, and maybe I've asked you about this before and I can't remember, but in that readout view, which I think is really nice, so that's by default sorted by criticality, right?
Correct.
could you, if you wanted to, like sometimes on my internal network pen test reports, I like to have it read out in in a narrative, even though it may be a low severity finding first, then a critical, then a high, then a medium. Could you do a custom sort of on those at all, or is that just kind of a bit of a Brian Johnson edge case that I'd be the only one wanting to do something like that?
I don't know that we've heard of other people wanting to do that. But
Okay, it's just me.
yeah,
Yay.
yeah, no. But what you can do is, in terms of the narrative, is in this section here, where we've got the report narrative, right here. You can easily edit this, right? So you can. This is a fully rich text editing experience, right? So you can add screenshots into your narrative. You can add multiple sections. You can have an attack path. So in that narrative, you can walk them through like, hey, this was like, how I wanted to present it from the overall perspective. And then on the right, it'd still be based on the criticality, because, I think most organizations are going to say like, I want to know about the critical issues first, and those are the ones I want to fix, and then your narrative can explain like, I used this chaining capability to fix them. And then, you could develop your own kind of mechanism, maybe in the title, to say like, hey, we're going to prioritize this one in conjunction with those. So people can get creative on that kind of a perspective. But the report narrative really is handy from being able to provide multiple sections and multiple, additional, what I would call that prose information, right? Not just the breakdown of the findings.
Gotcha. Good stuff.
Yeah. One other nice thing about the PlexTrac is some people, want to have additional artifacts and evidence that doesn't necessarily belong in the report, but like they want to, tie that to the report or the engagement. So like, let's say you had an Nmap scan that you didn't want, you're not going to include that as an exhibit in the report, but you wanted to save it so that people had that, that reference. You can add, you can add multiple files here, right? So if we did, it's just like, oh, there we go. There's a 7ms PlexTrac template. So, if we wanted to have that as a reference, or say you export the document out as a hard copy document for today. Like, here's the way the report looked today. This is what I delivered to our external auditors or to our board, so you could upload that here and it just is saved as an artifact of this engagement.
Oh, okay.
Somebody could download this or whatnot.
Oh, sure. Maybe raw results from tools and that kind of stuff. Do people do that at all, like a Nessus scan or whatever? Okay.
Yep, exactly. So you can not only can you bring those in here, but you could save that as here was the raw scan results, right? So if anybody wanted to kind of cross-reference those later.
Yeah, sweet.
So let's talk about we're about halfway through. Let's talk about getting data out of the PlexTrac. So we talked a little bit about exporting to Excel. One of the really nice features about PlexTrac is that we have the capability to do Word export to custom templates. And this is a key feature that a lot of users have always requested, and we support it extremely well. There are other platforms that do similar things, and we just make it a lot easier to basically have your template get converted into the PlexTrac format, set it once and forget it, right? Then you can just only worry about doing all the work in PlexTrac. Then when you hit export to the Word document, there might be a final just real quick glance, and then you're done, right? So we support it. The templating based on this templating language. It's a Python library for Jinja 2 templating language. So it's a common language that some people are already familiar with. You don't have to learn a new templating language, and you have a lot of the fields referenceable within PlexTrac that you can put anywhere into the document. So you can see here, we can structure this however we want. Here's the title and the start and end date and who it was prepared for, the logo. You can have these variable replacements in the headers and footers. You can have the executive summary, and all those different sections that you have that in the report narrative can go here. And then you can split things out based on tables and things like that. And then you can have all the findings broken down into whatever format that you would like. So this makes it really powerful from being able to keep that look and feel that you might want in your document, whether you're an enterprise that has certain quote unquote regulations or standards on anything document based needs to be in their letterhead or their format, or if you're a consulting service, you want it to keep your same look and feel, or that template that you've been using for a long time, we can support converting that into PlexTrac format.
I
So
think
this
that's
is kind of like
super.
what the template looks like.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think that's super nice because I feel like for certain tasks that we as assessors do over and over again, something like a vulnerability scan, right? Like a lot of the technical work will be the same. The output will look largely the same, but like, you want it to look like your company and feel like your company. And then you want to add things that, are value adds, right? Like I know one of the
Right.
things we like to do is take, any of the critical vulnerabilities and really give them a perspective of, from an attacker's perspective, this is what you could do with this vulnerability, right? So it's nice that you can take a lot of the just grunt work out of making the pretty pictures, making the findings and all that kind of stuff, but then still have the flexibility for us to put in our own words, our own narrative, but then at the end of the day, give this export Word report that has our colors and our fonts and our headers and footers and all that, right? So it really looks like it's, you and not just something that's shot out of a tool.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it still gives that personal touch, right? And that's what you're always looking for. So as you can see, here's the finished copy. We exported to Word. It's that using that baseline template. And so here's all the information that we don't have to go in and insert ourselves. If I get to the one that has screenshots, you'll also, I think, be pleasantly surprised the way that we handle screenshots. It automatically formats it to the width of the page, so you don't have
That's really good.
to, how much time do you spend? Like, here's this really high res screenshot that I got to shrink down to an 8.5 wide,
Yeah.
so like, this is just nice, right? And so another very popular feature within PlexTrac we love to tout. So that's one way to deal with the data from just the report perspective. We also showed you like the assessments of being able to run through an assessment and get a report out of that. So like one nice thing about PlexTrac in that regard is that you now kind of hit multiple teams. You've hit the GRC team, you've hit the penetration testing team.
Yeah.
With the scan imports, you've hit the vulnerability management team, and it normalizes the view into these single findings, right? So we now have a kind of a standardized view of how we should be dealing with this information for the blue team, right? And I now want to be able to go ahead and assign this to somebody and say like, hey, we need to start working on this. The other thing to note here is you can integrate with Jira and ServiceNow, so other ticketing systems. So PlexTrac can serve as your central portal for all things related to your security program and your security risk. But you may not want to break the workflow of other customers or other business units, like say like the development team, they do everything in Jira. So you want to assign tickets in Jira that, hey, this needs to go get fixed. But you don't necessarily, they don't want necessarily log into PlexTrac to have to view that information. They want to stick with their normal workflow. So when you have that integration set up, you get an extra button here that just says, hey, go create a ticket and link it to Jira. And then all the information gets put into a Jira ticket. Whoever picks that up and starts working on it makes comments. Those comments sync back into this status tracker. So I, as the security engineer or the security analyst, kind of responsible for making sure this work gets done. I view that here, and I can also provide my status updates to my boss or to whomever. Once the issue gets closed out in Jira, it closes the issue out in PlexTrac. So it becomes, it facilitates the workflow and continues to improve the overall collaboration between all the stakeholders that might be in place for getting these issues reported, fixed, and then tracked. So that's, so one thing about kind of like the collaboration piece. This is also nice because like, let's say I come in here and I just, I really don't know how to fix it. You can collaborate, and make comments directly with the end user as well, right? So if your customer comes in and says like, I just don't know how to fix this, you can make another comment and say, try this, or try this, or here's some additional reference material, or I've put something else in the artifacts that may help you figure out a good way to resolve this issue. So you now start to show off the service, the value that you provide to your customers as well, beyond just the report, right? And
Yeah.
we know that this exists, whether that's in email or text messages, but now you can have a central place to kind of show off as well. Like, hey, not only did we report this, but 3 or 4 months later, we came back and helped you fix it. So
Yeah. And there's another, I think, just opportunity for, those of you who are running your own consulting companies. I know a couple of years ago, just at the start of getting 7MS off the ground, we got a lot of projects that I would just call like, remediation guidance project, where some other pen testing or security firm had done an initial assessment, dropped this 500-page PDF on the client's desk of all this red and purple stuff to fix. And then they came to us going, we don't know how to actually fix anything. We want you to just work with us like for the next 6 months on a bunch of these things. And it's so nice to just, put those findings right in here. And like you said, kind of have this back and forth of working through those together without emailing back and forth 120 versions of an Excel spreadsheet, or even, SharePoint, some of these other things. It's just kind of hard. Whereas this just allows anybody to kind of come in and just quickly see, where are we at? Are we closing anything? Are we stale? Do we have momentum in this security program or not? So it's really handy to have that all in one. What's the marketing term? One pane of glass. Am I doing good at marketing things?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Some people may twinge at that, but
yeah, that's why I said it. Just no, this is the only webinar I've been on in history where I've not heard the term, so I just thought I want to
you
play with
gotta
the
get it
big
in.
boys and
Right. Yeah.
say it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I guess one thing else to highlight too is like when you get assigned to an issue, you do get a notification, right? So like you can come in and view the status tracker for that specifically, and you can view all the notifications that you have, whether they've been read or unread, and come in and quickly make your status update as well. So that's another nice kind of thing from the workflow perspective of being able to go ahead and just say like, okay, yeah, and you'll continue to get notifications if you don't make a status update in a by default every 30 days, right? So really trying to facilitate like, hey, we need to be making progress on these issues.
And did you say, would I also get, if I'm on an assessment, some of the things have been assigned to me, did you say that was tied to email alerts as well, or that was optional?
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
exactly. So
Okay.
like, we do have the ability to notify stakeholders and people that have been assigned to issues. So when you get assigned an issue, you do get an email. By default, we turn all these off, so you're not like spamming a bunch of people,
Okay.
and except for when you've been assigned to an issue,
Okay.
you'll get an email. And you can also use your own custom email server or the PlexTrac default mail server for service. And then we also have templates, so you can edit like what goes into that email, right? So like these are the defaults, but if you wanted to change the look and feel of the email itself, or add additional language into the email, or maybe add some disclaimers or things like that, you can do that here. Right? So while we're on the topic of administration, here's where we would manage those templates, where you have like the different documents that you might be uploading to export to those different documents. If you have additional fields that you want to include within the findings, you can add those as templates when you're creating the report. And then you also have the reports themselves. So let's see if we've got one that actually has some data in it. You can have these pre-built narratives already set up. So I think Web Application Test has some good ones. So like, you can have some images already pre-built. Here's your attack path and the methodology. Yeah. So when you select that one, it brings all that in, similar to like the write-ups in the write-ups database. And then you can manage all the users and authorization aspects from here as well.
Oh, and since I saw the users and authentication, what jumped out to me is I know some folks will want to know, this is some sensitive data we're storing here about our customers, right? And the dirty laundry on their network and their systems. What is set up by way of like multi-factor authentication and that kind of stuff? Does PlexTrac support all that goodness?
Yep, we sure do. So we support two-factor authentication, where you just you would hit here. Actually, I can do it and then disable it. So you would scan the QR code and validate it, and then you have the two-factor authentication with your authentication app. And if someone gets locked out, that's where you can come in. I think it's actually here where if they have MFA enabled, say they lost their token or something, you can come in and just disable it for them so that they can log back in with their password, and you can change their password to where it sends them an email. And then we do support multiple authentication providers. So we support Okta using OpenID, so OAuth. So Okta, Google, and Azure in their OAuth capabilities, and then we also support general SAML, so to where you can integrate with any kind of SSO provider using SAML.
That's very cool. And since we're on the topic of security and privacy, I thought I'd ask this very specific question from our friend, the Eager Padawan in Slack. He asks, how can I trust PlexTrac not to sell my findings to Russia/China/Iran/North Korea? Perhaps a bit of a silly question, but you are providing it, it being PlexTrac, with sensitive information after all, so I'm slightly paranoid. And I the question makes me smirk, but it is a good one. I think it's a serious one.
Yeah. I mean, we're a U.S. based company, and we adhere to a strict privacy policy of like we don't sell this data to anybody, and we are all vetted security professionals as well. So we don't sell information to anybody. I mean, what's basically in our terms and conditions, your data is your data. And we enforce that very strictly, so that that you have the confidence that what you're putting in here is only known to you and your customers, and that we're not selling this to anybody else, and we're not rummaging through people's exploits to be able to use those for any other kind of purpose. Right? So.
Good stuff. Just to do a quick time check, I know we're about 13 minutes to the hour. I've got one user question waiting in the queue and one question about pricing that I know we want to hit before the close of the hour. So keep going with whatever you want to show. I just want to be mindful of those two things as we get near the hour.
Yeah, so let me quickly dive into our analytics module, because I think this is really valuable from not only your customer's perspective, but if you're an enterprise team or just getting off the ground with a security program, having the ability to track the issues and report on them is always a time saver. So here we have the vulnerabilities that are all exist and their status. You can see them broken down by client, and then the most critical issues that exist. So it kind of gives you an idea of like what things you should be prioritizing to go resolve. It breaks things down by the client themselves, and which reports are kind of the bad children, so to speak. So, you can see, well, I have 634 findings as a client. How many of those were from a single report versus multiple reports? And then, what are the most critical issues for that client? So you can see here, we've got the 7MS Awesome Sauce report where it had 2 criticals and 8 highs, right? So we got to go fix those. And by the way, this is only for findings that are in a published status. The other really nice thing is the trending capabilities, where you can start to see how quickly you're closing issues out over time, right? So based on the criticality of the finding, you can see here for all critical findings, our average time to close is 37 days, right? And here we have another view of those open and closed trends to see like how many findings are getting opened and closed every month. And then, our benchmarks of how quickly are we closing these things out. And so this is a really nice, and you can break this down by time and by client as well to kind of see like, who's doing well and who's not. So this is kind of a brief discussion on the analytics section of PlexTrac that is really, very valuable from being able to start to get a visualization of like, how are we doing over time. Right? So I mean, that's a quick overview of PlexTrac. Let's dive into some more of those questions. I think, where did you want to start?
Yeah, and actually, Sean's been in the background just sniping them off. So there was just a question about creation of templates, and that it looked like it required a heavy knowledge of HTML and scripting. Is that kind of where you're at today, is there any plans for more of a WYSIWYG drag and drop in the future?
In terms of the actual content, is that what you're saying?
I think when you had up, you had up that word report, I think you had all those fields that called, specific values and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
And
okay.
that might at first glance look a little bit intimidating. I know that your team has helped me kind of break that down into something I can use, but I haven't had to do a lot of the background coding on it. So
yeah, part of the white glove service that we offer is really to make sure you don't have to battle, the templating language as much as, as some other providers might force you to. So we make sure that your template is good to go, and can offer support on that. A lot of our customers will then take it on themselves and start to learn it, but you don't have to. So okay. we support all that templating for you. Within the platform itself, you don't have to know anything about HTML or templating or anything like that. You can just write as if it's your own word processor.
Okay, yeah, and your team has been awesome on that. I had I don't know, a month or so ago, I kind of wanted to make a bit of a NIST CSF light assessment. I know you and Sean did a ton of background, because I feel like that guy that's like, well, I know what I want it to look like, but I have no idea how you would actually make this, happen and prioritize findings this way and all this stuff. And, you guys got your magician's hats on and a lot of sweat, blood, and tears, and made it happen. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that, again, I think it was when you had your Word document up, maybe is when that question came through. And I think that might make somebody think like, well, wait a minute, do I have to go and know how to code all that Word, whatever that is, macro mumbo jumbo in the background?
Yep. Yeah. And so then let's see. So regarding pricing,
yeah, I think that would be the last thing. That'd be a good thing to end on. And then we give a few more minutes in case any more questions roll in.
Yeah. So pricing, we have two plans today. We have a basic plan and then our, kind of our enterprise plan, where the basic plan is really geared. I think it's ideal for people that are doing bug bounty research or independent research or kind of independent consultants, and don't necessarily want to be using PlexTrac as a client portal, because we've definitely gotten feedback like, I don't want to be paying for things I'm not going to be using naturally. And so, so it's ideal for, for those use cases where they don't want, maybe they're not going to use it as a customer portal, and just want, and maybe you don't even want to use it for custom templating. Like they can convert it themselves if they want to later, but it's just an easy way to track all the findings in a single place and have the write-ups database in a single spot. So that is our basic plan, and it is $99 a month. And then, with the enterprise quotes, we really like to sit down and say like, okay, what are the features that are key to you? And we'll make sure that we price that out, based on your use case. How many users you do think you're going to be supporting, both from the people generating the reports and the people receiving the reports. How many templates you actually are going to be using from the conversion perspective, if you're going to be using it as a client portal. So we really try to break down the quote, and then we give you a custom quote right at that point. So it really is based on your needs, your use cases, so that it fits your budget, and really there's a PlexTrac for all in that perspective.
That's good. I know when we've been talking about this the last few months, that was something I was always a little concerned about, right? Is that, don't forget about the little person. Don't forget about the, 1 to 10 person security shop, right? That could totally get a ton of value out of this, but maybe don't have super deep pockets, and it seems like you're in the position to make something work for just about everybody. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see if any of you have any more questions. We're about 5-6 minutes to the hour here. I just want to give you one last all call for questions. And maybe while we wait for those, Dan, are there new and exciting things around the corner for PlexTrac, like stuff not released yet that we should be revved up about?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing to get excited about is our runbooks feature. So that's going to be an add-on module where you can do custom methodologies. And it's really geared towards the kind of that purple teaming concept, or that checklist mentality from the pen tester or the security assessment perspective, of where these are the different tactics and techniques that I'm going to do in every assessment. And I want to make sure everybody's doing it the same way. So you can also, it'll also facilitate the ability to collaborate in the engagement between the red and the blue teams. So we'll release it with a MITRE ATT&CK baseline run book. And then you can build your own run books from that, or even create your own custom ones. So if you had like an OWASP testing methodology that you wanted to create, you can do that. And that'll be very, very exciting. And we're really excited about it. It's been a big feature request from a lot of customers and prospects around having that custom methodology, or being able to evaluate specifically on MITRE, right? The MITRE ATT&CK techniques. If I want to do run books and I want to kind of have that iterative continuous assessment capability, our runbooks feature will be able to facilitate that, where I can say like, okay, I want to test things within the lateral movement tactic. These are the techniques I want to test. You can go and execute them, make notes, have people, even identify whether they detected that or not. And then, and then you can actually say like, okay, this activity, this was successful, therefore it needs to be a finding. And then when you submit everything, it creates a report based on the activities that were considered findings. So you now have that, you'll now have this comparison between things that were conducted and activities that were conducted during the engagement that didn't necessarily result in a finding, and versus the ones that did.
Interesting. Very, very cool. Well, I did not see any more questions come in, but I really just want to thank you for the demo and the information, and for your time, and again, all your team's help in helping the 7MS team here get the most out of PlexTrac, because we're spending a lot less time writing and a lot more time doing. I mean, for me, the revving up part, what gets my blood going is the pen test or the actual assessment. And then when it gets time to that block of calendar hours for writing is usually when I start to weep and think of any reason to not do the report. And I imagine some of our attendees have been in the same boat. So I think you've shown us that there's a better way. There's a different way to do things. You don't have to dread it.
Yeah, no, I mean, our goal, we've got case studies and use cases around this already, of like people truly becoming more efficient and more productive in their engagements, to where they can conduct more engagements throughout the year. They can go deeper on engagements because they're not having to spend as much time battling, the reporting life cycle as well as the remediation life cycle. It's all tied into one. And so that, that's exciting for us, because that's our mission, is to help people, focus on the work that needs to get done, the real work, right? And not the mundane work that you feel is like a time sink. There's always going to be some aspects of that, because you still got to write, but at least we speed it up and even make it a more enhanced experience, right? And then that means that if you're able to do more assessments and go deeper on engagements, that means you're moving the bar forward from a security perspective.
And coming out of this, if people want to contact PlexTrac to learn more, ask more questions, see a more in-depth demo, that kind of stuff, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, just go to plextrac.com/demo and you can request a demo. You can always shoot me an email, either dan@plextrac.com or info@plextrac.com. We're happy to answer any questions and set you up with a trial, anything that you'd like, and we'd love to hear more.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And there was a couple folks that asked about will this be recorded? It is being recorded, and I know one or both of us will have it up on our respective YouTube channels. So if you missed the beginning or just want to rewatch this, we'll make it available to you. All right. I think that's it, sir. Thanks again, Dan. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you in the next webinar.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
All right. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.